Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Now let's talk about Trump. My favorite person in the world. But Donald Trump, he's been coming under a lot of scrutiny lately. And like I said, I'm not a Trump supporter, but at the same time, when you're threatening the guy's kids, you're sending, packages of white powder to his children. You're showing up, in Klan rallies, or, you're dressing up like a Klan guy and going to his events. I don't think he's responsible for that. You could dress up like a Klan guy or, whatever. You could dress up like Adolf Hitler and go to a Hillary Clinton event. That doesn't mean the Nazis or that she endorses the Nazi party. That's just people who are trying to get her goat. And now we see that a cop, a black cop at that, went to a Trump rally, and he said the anti-Trump protesters were the most hateful people that he had ever met. And he basically said he wanted to go out there and just hear what Trump had to say from the man himself, because he understands that media distortions do happen. People take things out of context, or they have creative editing. They will play one part of his soundbite, but not the whole thing. So he went out there to experience it for himself, and this is what he found out.
They made an announcement that said you are not to harm protesters, you are not to get in a physical altercation with them, that the security staff will escort them out. These people were acting fools. Some of them were most of them were African Americans acting a fool. And I hope that there's a picture of this mother covering her kids' ears and walking them away, because these people are yelling F Donald Trump, sticking their fingers up and yelling and screaming Black Lives Matter.
And as the violence at these rallies continues, we see that the RNC head has actually come out and said that there is plenty of blame to go around. And I do agree with this. I don't agree with everything the guy says. He says you have to vote, or you have to run to be accepted into the Republican Party, but that's a misnomer. To focus on what he's saying here, when it comes to the increased violence at the campaign rallies, particularly those of the GOP frontrunner Donald Trump, he says that there is plenty of blame on both sides and everybody needs to denounce the violence. And he also blamed the media for their part in the spike of violence because of the attention most news outlets give to the campaign trail chaos. And I believe that is a very true statement. They always continue to show these things pretty much around the clock, whether they're for Trump or they're against Trump. There's a lot of these videos going around of all these violent assaults. And really, it's kind of like any kind of copycat deal, right? You have some, copycat killer or whatever. He has some kind of calling card, and then once the guy gets into the news, it becomes a widespread or more widespread thing. And it's always that fine balance. And admittedly, not everybody does it perfectly. I don't do it perfectly all the time, trying to find a proper balance between just reporting on it and then just doing it to death, I guess you would say. But I do agree with the statement that he made here. He said the media is obsessed with it. I mean, not necessarily you guys at CBS, that's who he's talking to, but other shows have this stuff on a constant loop. I mean, they find an altercation and they play it 24/7. And I do agree with that. So you definitely have to be careful when you look at these things that are very sensitive, especially when race comes into the mix. Like we just saw with the last story, the officer there, he said, hey, they keep telling me Trump is this, they say he's that. I just want to hear the man speak from his own mouth and listen to what he actually has to say. So I think if we have more people like that who would actually listen to the man and not just the selected sound bites, you can find your own opinion of him. And even listening to the guy, I don't agree with everything he says. I don't think he should be the next president of the United States, but I don't think he's as bad as people paint him to be. And somebody who may be actually worse than people paint him to be, we got Kim over there in North Korea. And now he's shooting out his 5 short-range ballistic missiles into the Sea of Japan. Now, if you didn't know, Kim is threatening to blow up Washington, D.C., as well as Seoul. And they say that South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff reported that the missiles were launched in northeastern North Korea and traveled approximately 125 miles before landing in the water. They say the latest launches appear to be part of North Korea's response to ongoing South Korean U.S. military drills it sees as a provocation and a rehearsal for an invasion. And in the past 2 weeks, North Korea has fired several short-range missiles and artillery shells into the sea and threatening, like I said, the attacks against Washington. I'm not exactly sure what Kim has up his sleeve, but he's not really packing the best stuff for the job. So I don't know if this is just kind of like a cry for attention, or what exactly he thinks he's going to get out of fighting with the United States of America. He has issues with other people. He can handle those issues. Hopefully they can find some peaceful solution. But Kim, I don't think you're going to do too well if you got the big ISIS hunters coming out there to tear you down. I don't think you're going to last too long with that one. Now, a guy who lasts a little bit longer than people thought he would, the Paris fugitive. And this is the guy who was on the run after the Paris attacks. And they say that he got more help from his friends and neighbors than he did ISIS. It says after the attacks, security forces searched far and wide for the prime suspect who vanished after returning to Brussels, believing the Islamic State could have spirited him away to Turkey, Syria, or Morocco. And it appears that Europe's most wanted man never left the Belgium capital. It reminds me of something I saw a few weeks ago. I was watching Better Call Saul, and they had the episode where he was looking for a family who, disappeared, or they thought they got kidnapped. And but long story short, the cop he went to for help said, people don't like to leave home. They always stay around. And lo and behold, Saul found him, camping out in the woods or something like that. It's a very common thing. People don't like to leave home. And just like the Paris attacker, we see this guy, AP. Army never searched for AWOL soldier accused of raping girls. Long story short, they found this guy, age 24, who had been accused of having relations with girls age 15 and 14, I believe. He's age 24, and they found him very close to his hometown. So I guess it's a psychological deal that people don't like to go too far from home. And I guess the guy's in custody now, and they will deal with him as they see fit. And lastly, you guys see a lot of privilege training, whether it's white privilege or male privilege or, whatever privilege. And now they have training for Marines. All Marines forced to go through training to erase unconscious bias as women enter combat roles. Now, this is when they're not busy having the troops run around in high heels. I'm talking about the men. You dress up in high heels and run them around. I'm sure Putin and everybody else are just laughing their heads off about it. Now they're saying that we have to teach these guys not to be biased against the women. Meanwhile, they're saying that they have surveys out there, and they found that 2/3 of male Marines and also 1/3 of female Marines oppose the idea of women in combat roles. I'm just the messenger. Stay tuned right after this break for more special reports.
All parties need to stop throwing the race card out there, and let's figure out what the hell we need to control. Because we know, most terrorists come from the Muslim culture. Not saying most terrorists are Muslim, but they come from that, that side of life. Most immigrants and, a lot of crime does come from outside people that we can't control because they're in illegally, but let's worry about controlling that first. Let's shut our borders down.
But you sound racist right now.
I don't sound racist. I don't feel like I sound racist because I just want...
If you were white, though, you would be very racist right now.
I agree. You know what I'm saying? I definitely agree because it seems like the tables are kind of flipping around now that, my culture as African Americans, we're able to say certain things, and then when Caucasians say the same thing, we kind of take it out of proportion.
My fellow Info Warriors, I am very excited to be able to announce to you the introduction at InfoWarsLife.com of a new way to save time and money when you stock up on InfoWars Life formulations like Survival Shield X2 and Super Male Vitality. Just go to InfoWarsLife.com today, select your favorite product, click on Auto Ship before adding to cart, and choose how often you want us to send you another order. Every time you choose Auto Ship at InfoWarsLife.com, you get 10% off, and you won't have to worry about running out and having to reorder next time. And of course, you can cancel with one click anytime. As you know, I'm all about the idea of a 360 win, and the new auto ship feature at InfoWarsLife.com is a sure win for everybody. A win for liberty, a win for health, and a win when it comes to big savings. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today and save 10% on your next InfoWars Life order by selecting auto ship at checkout. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.